Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today we've got another one for Fairground Friday fans because we're motorising yet another big ride. So apologies to Little Robin and the Circus Ringmaster from Series 2 for accidentally smashing into them then with the rather large ride. That is one of the two major builds in the set 41375 Heart Lake City Amusement Pier, which is an odd name for the set to start with because there's no pier. I suppose you're supposed to imagine that and the rides are just on top of it, but with them being based on what looks like sand, it doesn't look much like a pier at all to me. Anyway, there are two main constituent parts of that set. One is the roller coaster, which is kind of pirate themed, and I really don't like that very much because, well, it's not really a roller coaster as I understand it. It's sort of almost a completely flat sort of loop of track which should go around very slowly. And what's more, you have to sort of push it around with your finger through all the tunnels and so on, and I just don't think that's a very good idea. So I've got no desire to motorise that and convert that for use in Brick Nottingham's Fairground. But this chair ride is another kettle of fish altogether, not literally, obviously, in that it is a really interesting, different and pretty fun ride actually. It's quite hard to spin at a consistent speed to get the chairs going out and not doing something like that where they're all flapping around like crazy. But I figure a motor will do a much better job of that. And that's a really good thing too, because as you know, all rides in my fairground have to be motorised, otherwise they just don't get in. So yeah, I thought this ride had a lot of good points going for it. One is the vast height, which is why we've got the camera mounted up at this quite high angle looking down, just so we can fit it all in, which means it's right in front of my face, which makes doing all this a lot harder, but nonetheless. But this height will make a real feature of this ride when it's in position, because all the others are kind of about the same height, this and maybe the odd one that's a little bit taller, but nothing has this great big flat bit at the top with all these bright colours on. So I think that'll be a really good contrast and stand out really well. The other thing I've already kind of mentioned is the sort of swinging nature of these swing chairs that are on the outside. I just love the fact that they are free-flowing and moving in this very natural way because, well, there's nothing, tricky about this. It's all exactly as it should be, chairs on the end of chains. So I just love that motion, and that's very different from all of the rides I've got so far. So awesome news for variety. I also really like the little feature of all these sort of dropped items. We've got a phone here and a coin here that have clearly come out of everyone's pockets when they've been whizzing around. And it must be because they've got some wonky motion, like if I get the speed wrong, because technically it would all stay in your pockets or at least fire more that way when you were going around. But nonetheless, I like the touches. So I think that's a good bit of humour in there. However, it's all not good news in other categories because, I mean, just look at the colour palette. It's not so much that we've used purples and pinks and so on, but it's that we've used so many different colours. I mean, on these, we've got the dark turquoise and this flamish yellow-orange. We've got purple, pink, we've got the lilac as well, and then we've got medium azure and red. I mean, it's just too many colours all in one. So I think we really need to mute down some of these colours or even change the colour palette entirely. So that's one thing I want to do. Kind of want to use this opportunity to get rid of all these hearts as well. I think they're a bit twee. Yeah, well, anyway, we'll see how far that goes. I think another problem is there's only 3 chairs. And when you see these things in real life, I mean, they have absolutely loads. They have pretty much 2 tiers of them, and they're pretty much front to back. And you think they might hit, but they never do. So I figure I can get more on, probably not 2 whole rings of anything, but definitely 3 more on there to make a 6. I don't see why we can't do that, 1 more in each of these gaps. And then a bit that I've done already is to basically remove all of the stuff that was on the ground level that came with that set that's, well, a bit surplus to requirements for my needs. So what I'm going to do is make a start kind of at the bottom and then work my way up to the top, changing every section bit by bit until we've got a completely modified ride for my fairground. Now the way this works is the whole top section with all the chairs attached and all of the decor basically just ends in one Technic axle, you can just see there against my fingers, that slots into this very tall column that's mounted on the ground. So I can put that whole major section to one side and really just focus on this if we're working up from the bottom. So the first thing I really need to do is change the ground. Now, I've probably gone through this 1,000 times with people who've been watching this series, but I have bright green plates as my ground layer in my Fairground, and I also have them built in a kind of artificial way, 3 brick height above the table layer, and that's so I can conceal all of the power functions, motors and wiring and so on, so everything looks completely normal, just like it did on the original set, so you couldn't really tell the difference. And in doing this, I won't go through it in much detail because I've done this quite a few times now. I've essentially got a medium motor that may get shared with other rides, but I'm just using it on its own here for convenience, which is going to power a worm gear, which is one of these sort of funny ones that goes that slows down the speed of the motor whilst keeping all of its strength as much as possible. And then that will be hitting a horizontal gear, which then drives this whole very long pole here that's going to go right up the centre of our column. And I had to sort of experiment quite a few times to get the speed right, because first of all I had the worm gear, which does slow it down quite a long way with one of these rather large gears, and it was so slow going around, it didn't look very much fun at all on the ride. So I went for the next size down, in my collection anyway, which was this one, and that again went round at sort of a normal speed, but wow, you wouldn't lose anything out of your pockets, that's for sure. So then I tried the next one down in my collection, and yeah, it was all right. It was starting to look like a ride, but again, it didn't really make the chairs bow out at all, and you definitely need to have that as a feature, I think. So you might be able to see the one that we ended up with in the middle there. It's the very sort of small one that's just there. And that one, I think, has got the right compromise of speed, because what I don't want when this thing is in place is all the chairs sort of spinning out to about that angle, because then the whole ride's going to take up that much of my precious space in my city. So really, I just want to get enough of an angle on it so it looks like they're spinning out from the vertical, but not too much. So I'm hoping that that is a good combination. So that basically turns that. So it doesn't look that fast when it's down the middle, does it? And then we can move on to this whole thing. So I better take this apart bit by bit, and I can remove all of the stuff that's holding this together structurally, but that is preventing the old axle in the middle from turning around. So I can put all these bits to one side because I won't need them. And I've looked into changing the colour of these pieces here to basically make this ride a bit more well, friendly to my tastes, let's say. But I haven't had a lot of luck because that piece is only available in very few colours, and white seems to be the only option, and I haven't been able to get one yet. So for now, I'm not going to change the column because I quite like the height. And I could just change these round 4x4 plates, of course, on their own. But again, you know, they kind of go with the purple, so I'm going to keep them for now. If and when I get white ones of these and white ones of these, which is a bit plain, then I may well change those as well. But for now, we just need to put on the rest of this column so we can kind of work our way up to the top, but bringing that motion that we need with us. So otherwise, apart from the removal of all those pieces that used to be in the centre, we've just kind of added a few axle pieces really, and you can probably just see that turning at the top. So yeah, so far so easy. Let's now go on to the top half, which should be a lot more difficult. Right, so onto the top section, which is pretty much made of this sort of flat bit which hides all of the workings, which pretty much looks like a sunshine, which I don't hate, but it's just other colours introduced into an already busy palette. This kind of rim, which I've already sort of described as something I definitely want to change. The arms, which hold onto the chairs, and then the chairs themselves. And the first thing that I've decided to change is the frame that's holding the chairs. And what I've done to that is basically changed this whole network. So as opposed to having 3 arms that come out sort of equally spaced on one of these triangular pieces here, is add on several more to make, well, a hexagon on the bottom there that's connected still to the underside of all this working, but with the ability to spur off 3 more times. And that means I can just add very simply and very easily 3 more arms. and all I've used is just more of those sort of Technic connector pieces. So now, if I put it up like that, you can start to see we're in a position to have 6 chairs on straight away. So that is a very easy change, and I think probably what's going to be the most effective to make this a really interesting ride. Now, the next one is, well, required really, I suppose, and that's because these carriages, A, are quite big and are almost sort of 4x4 sort of stud size, I would say, but also because they've been designed to take mini dolls, and that's well, for a very good reason, given this is a Friends set, but I want them to take minifigures. So I think I can use this as an opportunity to make these a lot smaller, because having 6 of these all around might look a bit big, and well, there's a lot of padding around them really. So I want to simplify these a great deal. So what I have done for my setup is to just use a very, very basic build, which is a normal Lego seat with just 2 of these bracket pieces underneath it, and them holding onto the chains on the 4 corners on their own. If I just hold this upside down, and I just have a similarly color-coded sort of setup at the top, which is very much in the same style as the ones that were already there, but just reducing the color palette again. So we've got rid of basically the dark turquoise there and added a sort of monochrome yellow chair here, but I'll also be adding ones in blue, where I've got one here. There we are, there's a blue one, and I'm going to be adding a red one as well, and this one is just being shown off by this rider here. So I think what I'll do is have red, yellow, blue as the 6 cars, and that will mean I can get rid of all these chunky Friends ones. And I've got enough chains here for 3, and I'm going to steal the chains from these ones for the other 3. So I'm going to pause the recording and get on with swapping them all around. So we've got 6 of the new ones. And I do appreciate I've added more colours to this, but we'll be getting rid of more of the purples and so on later on. Right, so here we are after the great chair transformation, and this is the result. And I think that's looking a lot better. I think you'll agree. Mainly because of the fact that we've now got 6 chairs rather than 3. It just looks a lot more densely packed and more fun as a result, I think. But I personally prefer the different colour palette as well. And the fact that these are really small now makes them look a lot more scary in a way, where you've really got to hang on to those chains with white knuckles. At least that's what I'd be doing. And I think it also works quite well that we've got a pair of blue opposite each other, a pair of red and a pair of yellow. So I quite like the fact that the chairs are different, because they were all the same before, of course. And now I'm the proud owner of absolutely loads of these. This isn't all of them, so I have to think of a use of those somewhere. But yeah, that's looking really good. But now it is clashing with, well, this whole layer and this whole setup as well. So I think I need to look at them first. So I figure I'm going to basically mute one of these with a really sort of a neutral tone. And I figure that the main sort of central bit, this kind of sun type shape, is just a bit too much. Golly, it's a bit hard to sort of separate, so let me get rid of this axle first. Oh, there we go, let's come out with that this time. So we definitely need something, because we can't have all of this showing. So I just thought I'd use dark tan, partially because I've got loads of different parts of different shapes for all of the edges, making this relatively circular for my paths. So basically I just came up with this, which is pretty much the same thing. It just looks a bit more mechanical and perhaps something that you'd sort of have hidden behind the scenes. So I'm just going to take the axle out of the tower that we had earlier, put that in there, and just so it's firmly held in position, which it wasn't with the original, I've added some extra brackets to sort of hold it on here with one of those half studs to clip onto the underside, and some half studs here as well. So when we push this on here, it's all very hard to do with a camera in front of your face, let's see, then we should be able to connect it more firmly onto all of those bits, and therefore it won't move around. Okay, so that's firmly connected. So I think that, although a lot more dull, is a bit better, to be honest. And then instead of this whole setup, I can just, because we won't need to be gripping onto it with our fingers anymore once it's motorized, I'm just going to take that bit off. So we've got the red, yellow and blue order of the cars or chairs on the bottom, sort of echoed there. But I do quite like this central sort of dome bit, whatever you'd call that. sort of cherry on top, if you will. So I'll keep that. And that is my idea for the main body of it. So yeah, I think that's better. I mean, I did quite like the fact this is a sunshine, but as I say, it just was too many colours all in one. So I think that's a good improvement. Right, so now the only real thing to change is this top rim of all these round 4x4 plates. I won't change this big banana gear, as they're called. I think that's what they're called, because, well, they come in sections that look a bit like bananas that join together to make the circle, because I don't think there's an alternative. And anyway, yellow matches my colour scheme, so that's fine. But what I do need is to replace these. So we've got these nice sort of angled things, so we can put all sorts of different setups on. And I could just do a direct swap and get, 16 more of these, but in, well, red, yellow and blue. But one problem with that, I figured, is that, well, 16 isn't divisible by 3. And now I've got 3 different colours on. It would go, red, yellow, blue, and then we'd have 2 reds next to each other at the end. And that sort of thing really would bother me. So I was sort of thinking a bit more about what I could do as an alternative. And I was looking at all of my parts, especially the parts that kind of don't have a job at the moment, the ones that are going spare. And one thing I realised I had an absolute load of, with no real use, was loads and loads of video tiles. Now, I am going to use a lot of these for a record store, sort of old style vinyl, because I reckon a lot of these look like they're record covers, especially some of the ones that look like they're almost sort of thrash metal or something like that. I mean, that guy, sort of skeleton guy playing guitar, is definitely a good record cover. Oh, and that one, look at that. Fantastic. So I will be doing that as well. So I won't be using all of the video tiles I've got, and something tells me that I'll probably be accumulating more video tiles soon. Please help me. I've got an addiction. My name is Robin. I'm a Lego addict, and it's been 0 days since my last build. So yeah, I think I'm going to have plenty of these to go around. So I figured that where there was one of those round 4x4s, I could basically get 4 of these in kind of random colours and make kind of a cacophony of colours and shapes and pictures on each one by using 4 of these video tiles. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say Robin started with not liking the fact that there were 6 different colours or whatever it was in this build, and then promptly added about 80 different colours. But I don't know, with them all being restricted to this one band, and when they're all there, it'll be almost unbroken all the way around. I think it might work. Anyway, it's definitely worth a try, so that's what I'm going to do next. Right, so I've added 4 times 16 of those video tiles to make 64, to make a kind of unbroken band all the way around. And it might need straightening in places, but you get the idea. And I've got absolutely loads more video tiles already, so technically I don't need to buy any more, but you know me, I probably will. I don't hate that range as much as a lot of people do, especially when it's deep discounted to sort of 50%. I wouldn't be buying any of them at full rate, that's for sure. Anyway, yeah, it is a bit of a cacophony of colours up there, but at least it's confined to the one band. And I figure that when we reintroduce it to this, if you can sort of picture this being white without the pink stripes on, and all these sections being white as well, then I think it probably isn't so bad. So that bit needs to push into that top connection there, and we can give it its first dry run. And I've transferred, you'll see, the fallen bits and pieces from people's pockets. And then afterwards I can probably add some people and we'll do a second dry run with them on as well. So here we go. Ooh, I might have to hold the base a little bit. But you see what I mean about the speed now. Once the motor sort of gets up to an even rate, and it is sounding very noisy under there, but nonetheless I can try and mute that in due course. The chairs are kicking out just a little bit, and although I wouldn't mind probably a couple more degrees, I think that's sufficient, because I don't want to be taking up too much space, because already this ride, just knocked one, is already taking up kind of a vast amount of space here. And well, I suppose that's relatively unavoidable, but you know, I don't want it to take any more. And one good thing is they're quite a height off the ground, so technically I can have people milling around underneath. I mean, if I just put a minifigure like this one, who'll be probably running the ride, you can see that they are definitely lower than the seats going around. So I'll put her there looking after the whole thing. And why not, let's add the people. So I've got an older lady here, but there's no reason why she couldn't enjoy it as well. Now, when they have got the people on, when I was just testing this before doing this bit of film, you can accidentally kind of tip them over because they come a bit top heavy and they can sort of go like that. Now, you wouldn't obviously want that when the ride's going round, and that's just a factor of the fact that the chains are very close together. On the original Friends ones, they had 2 studs in between them, so there were sort of 4, on one stud and on stud number 4 sort of thing, whereas now they're on sort of stud 1 and 2, so essentially they're much closer, and she looks like she's having a great time. Whee! So let's do this to turn around to the half. There we go. So yeah, I just have to be careful of that I don't knock them over too much. But they're perfectly stable if you sort of set it up right in the first case. And I'll leave one chair, this blue chair, unoccupied, just so it looks like there's room for more people to join the ride on the next time round. So there we go. Now, I'm not going to have any young people on this ride, partially because I don't think it's going to work with their unbendable legs. So I think what I might do for this is put one of my height boards next to it to suggest that you need to be of a certain height in order to get on the ride. And this chap is definitely not as high as the Arrow, even if his candy floss is. So I'll probably have those in close proximity. I've done several of these, so there's enough to be going around. Right, so here is the next run, fully loaded, well, almost, with people, and we'll see how that looks. Now, I think maybe it's my imagination, but I think with people on, maybe they're getting kicked out a bit wider. I don't know. What do you think? It might be that the extra weight means they get kicked out a little bit more, but yeah, I definitely think it's a pleasing effect. And I quite like this unbroken run of all these pictures because these rides are quite loud. I don't mean the sound of the motor. They are quite loud in the sense of colour when they're actually in place. So, yeah, I kind of like that. So, you see now, well, we definitely need the plain top to contrast with all those video tiles. And if you can just imagine that white, I think that's a pretty good finished product. But as always, do tell me what you think. You often make very good suggestions that improve things a great deal. So I'm very keen to hear what you've got to say about this one. And here it is in position in the fairground. I thought you might want to see this type of view. Now, this isn't its final position, of course, and there's all gaps in the ground and all the rest of it. I'm going to have to make sure all of these dovetail perfectly, and I've got an absolute load of rides to do that for, if you think about all the ones we've done so far, and there's a few more coming. So this whole area will be absolutely jam-packed full of rides, but I think it does work with all those colours. Now, I do think I'll still probably change the purple bits for white if and when I can find some of those, but do let me know your thoughts on that, as I said already. But I don't think the video tiles kind of ruin the area or anything like that. So what I've done is I've plugged that into, well, a kind of block of power functions connectors that is powered by the battery in that camper van there. So that will power this, and this. That one's got its own battery at the moment still. And then we've got one here that's powering this, and this. I don't have a motor on the roller coaster at the moment, but we can kind of turn all of these on and see how it'll look. Get ready for some serious noise. So there is our wonderful new chair ride. And I think it's been a successful conversion from the kind of tweeness of the Friends one into a more, I don't know, sort of adult looking ride. I think that looks pretty good. I definitely like the dark tan on the top. I think that really works. So we've got all 3 of those rides moving around and the Duckies ride in there. So very easy to turn this one on with the concealed switch. Let's hope they're all connected well. Yeah, they're all in position. The best ride, definitely. I mean, if I ever surpass that with another ride, I'll have done very well indeed. Oh, I haven't actually added the 6th car to that. Oh well. And then over here, all of these. being the target chute, the Venus flydrop, the pirate ship, and the barrel roll one there. Oh, has that one got stuck? There we go. There we go. Yeah, so it's very noisy, but very full of motion. And I think this is the first time I've shown you this many rides moving, and this many stalls as well. I think it's looking pretty good. I think you'll agree. Wow. Wonderful. That one does make me feel very sick. So I'll turn off all of those. Absolutely great. So I'll turn off that, and that's got the DJ Llama in the booth. Actually a very good use of him. And then all of these. I quite like the height here actually. It sort of gives the fairground a good bit of edge. The only downside is that it sort of obscures our lovely view of the fantastic Far Corner Farm and the horse at that gate and so on. But yeah, we definitely need some sort of big feature in between this big ride and that big ride. And something is squeaking. Anyway, I'll turn all of those off now as well by pushing on that canoe hidden switch. Yeah, so I really like that. I even like the fact that they sort of wobble after you've turned it off as well. So I think that has been a really good success and a fantastic addition to our budding fairground. So there's 3 more rides over here that we didn't have moving then, and the roller coaster. And I've actually got, I think it's 3 more rides planned, though I've technically got ideas for another 2 as well. It's just going to be a matter of what we can fit in. I mean, this area is quite big, but some of the rides that are yet to come are quite big as well. So I don't know what we're going to be able to manage. It'd be good to have a few more motorised stalls as well, because we've technically only really got the 2 here. But anyway, I think it is coming together well, and hopefully that's given you a bit more anticipation about this area, because I know that these rides do get repetitive after a while, all these sort of similar builds. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. As always, it is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. And if you want to send me something for Brick Hall 100, you've still got time. I'll still get to it even if it doesn't make it here in time, if you're worried about that, because I do have the PO box for a minimum of 3 months, so I think we'll be all right there. Yeah, do go ahead and do that if you want to. But otherwise, we'll be doing a normal video in a city on Monday, and I'm thinking something train-based, because we haven't done something trainy for at least couple of weeks. Then a haul on Wednesday, which will be 99, and then back here for something else. So until then, see you.